What's up guys, it's Tom here and welcome to another video where we will talk about Manchester City potentially getting relegated from the Premier League to even as low as non-league football, that's amateur football in the 5th or 6th division of English football, and they also might get stripped of all their titles and trophies won in this period. And it is the investigation of the Premier League is for like 14 seasons where Manchester City allegedly cheated and broke 115 financial fair play rules, and they got here. The way that they are dominating an English and European football, the way that they got here is through cheating and cooking the books and basically having an unlimited amount of spending and no restrictions on their spending, which is against Premier League rules. And Ian Sweeney wrote a brilliant article which we will talk about in detail on how this Manchester City title march is another hollow title march in a deeply unfair race, because Arsenal and Liverpool are doing things by the rules. They are doing things the right way, developing young players. Of course they spent a lot of money, but nowhere near the amount of money that Man City spent, and they haven't broken the rules. And Liverpool and Arsenal are playing by the rules fairly, and they have one mistake, one defeat, and Man City are already top of the Premier League. That's how this Premier League title race feels hollow and feels unfair. It's like running against a doping athlete who has 115 charges against him, and yet he is still doping, he's still doing steroids, and he is running against you while you are playing by the rules, while you are following the rules, and he's running against you, winning the races year after year, season after season. Man City are becoming champions. This could be their 6th Premier League title in 7 years. That's total and utter domination of English football. So the Premier League authorities have to come down really hard on Manchester City. And also this has to be a warning to future clubs like Newcastle United, owned by Saudi Arabia, that you cannot do this anymore. You cannot do this anymore. You cannot break the rules and get away with it. And Manchester City basically delayed their hearing with the independent Premier League panel by over 3 years by taking the Premier League to the public courts, arguing ridiculous technicalities and delaying the process, withholding information, not cooperating with the Premier League investigators, and basically hindering the process, delaying the process as much as possible. 3 years! This case could have been over 3 years ago if Man City cooperated with the authorities and with the investigation. But because I think they are guilty, and this is just my opinion, I think they are guilty, why would you otherwise delay and hinder the investigation? I mean, Everton and Nottingham Forest, they were cooperating with the investigation when they were found guilty of profit and sustainability rules, and the Premier League reached a verdict very quickly. In Man City's case, of course, it's a lot more difficult and a lot more complicated, but still Manchester City are delaying and obstructing the investigation wherever they can, hiring the biggest and most expensive lawyers. They have like 15 lawyers on their books, and they are trying to delay the investigation as much as possible. So in the Irish independent newspaper, Ian Sweeney, a journalist, argues that Liverpool and Arsenal hit a wall yesterday, but you shouldn't call them butlers. They are simply bowing to inevitability. Manchester City were always going to win it because everything is tagged towards their direction. They have the most expensive squad, they have the highest wage bill, they have also probably, the best footballing structure. Of course, they deserve credit for that because a lot of other clubs spent a lot of money and they are nowhere near as successful. But they also have all the referees making mistakes which hurt other teams, and they they hardly ever make mistakes that hurt Manchester City. The predictions of an old-fashioned down to the wire finale, so the predictions of a title race going to the last minutes of the season were always a fantasy, according to this journalist. So the the Premier League is an organization who is very quick to strip points of Everton, who for one offense. They are quick to strip points of Nottingham Forest, but they are not punishing Man City yet for 115 charges of rule breaking. And that's the thing, this is where the Man City's huge stacked squad, where they have a 50 and 100 million pound footballers sitting on the bench, come into play. Because when Liverpool and Arsenal feel the strains of, having to play in quarterfinals of the Champions League or the Europa League, and then 3 days later you have to play in the Premier League, your squad is stretched thin. Especially in Liverpool's case, they have 8 or 9 injuries throughout the whole season. Now the injuries are coming back, but some players are fit and played too much. Some players are just coming back from injury and they are not match sharp again. While Man City have 2 or 3 injuries, but they have such a big squad with international, hugely experienced players even on their bench, and they can rest the likes of Phil Foden one game, they can rest Kevin De Bruyne the next game. Imagine if Liverpool had the luxury of rest 2 of their best players in 1 or 2 games. Arsenal and Liverpool don't have the squad to cope with this relentless, incredible run-in where you have to play Champions League quarterfinal against Bayern Munich or play against Atalanta, and then 3 days later you basically have to win every single game while rotating the squad. And if you slip up once, like Arsenal and Liverpool slipped up, the title might be gone. I mean, Paul Merson said after the Arsenal-Aston Villa game that Man City went to Crystal Palace last week in what was a must-win football match, and they got the job done. They did their business this weekend, beating Luton 5-1 easily, and all of a sudden they have blown Arsenal and Liverpool away. They put pressure on them by playing first, and the other teams couldn't handle it, either of them. So Paul Merson says the title is gone. The title is gone for Arsenal, the title is gone for Liverpool, because Man City won't drop any more points, or if they will, the other teams will drop more points. And Sweeney, the journalist in the Independent newspaper, argues that Arsenal aren't equipped to run a title race all the way to the finish. There is not enough depth in their squad. It was obvious all season that they needed a top quality side striker, but the money wasn't there to buy one during the transfer window. The difference between champions and other title contenders was illustrated by the presence of Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko in Arsenal's lineup. Both are Man City cast-offs or rejects, players that Guardiola thought were not good enough anymore for Man City. Liverpool also have been victims of their own success, Sweeney argues. Early exits in the League Cup and FA Cup might have suited Liverpool better in the long run. Chances are Jurgen Klopp didn't expect to be in the title hunt, so he took success wherever he could find it. And that's actually a good point, because before the season began, all we Liverpool fans wanted was win a trophy and a top 4 finish. Just to get back into the Champions League, maybe finish in the top 3. If you offered us win the League Cup and finish in the top 3, we would have taken it as a successful season. But because Liverpool did so well in the league, early on we didn't know that, so we played a lot more stronger teams in the League Cup and in the rounds of the FA Cup. And that's why we got so many fixture pile-ups during the winter and spring months, where now Liverpool have to play every 3 days, and we went all the way to the FA Cup quarterfinals. And probably Jurgen Klopp didn't know that we were going to be in the title race, so he wanted to concentrate on the League Cup and the FA Cup to at least guarantee 1 or 2 trophies. And yes, we actually won the League Cup, which was absolutely brilliant, but Liverpool probably over-exerted the squad, and we got a lot of injuries because of that. And the journalist argues the result is that Liverpool look like a horse which has given it everything in the Grand National but starts wobbling at the next race. Liverpool toughed out games through their willpower, but the snap, the spark has vanished from Liverpool's play. And the way Atalanta dismantled and destroyed and humiliated Liverpool at Anfield showed a team in meltdown. Expecting a backlash just 3 days later was wishful thinking, according to the journalist. Liverpool's finishing was poor yet again. Nunez, Jota, Curtis Jones missing big chances, but Crystal Palace were only denied further goals by the terrific Andy Robertson's clearance and Alisson's superhuman saves. Crystal Palace had only won one of their previous 9 games, and yet they went to Anfield and won. That was their first away win since like November. But it's not, Jurgen Klopp's fault or the players' fault, because I think overall, even though it doesn't feel like it, Liverpool still overachieved. Staying in contention for so long after an extraordinary injury crisis which stretched for months and months and months, and it looks like now is the first time that this injury crisis is easing a little bit, with Alisson, Jota, Trent Alexander-Arnold coming back and Curtis Jones as well. But it forced Jurgen Klopp to rely on untried players like Conor Bradley, Kevin Kelleher, Harvey Elliott, Jarrell Kwanzaa. They all overachieved, but they couldn't do it forever. They couldn't maintain a title winning level throughout the whole season. Neither could Wataruendo, who rose to his task impressively enough to be Liverpool's Player of the Month in December. But against Atalanta and against Crystal Palace, Wataruendo looked tired, exhausted. He was overplayed. He played so much football because of Liverpool having so many injuries. And just look at Manchester City's bench against Luton Town. Jack Grealish cost 100 million, Rodri cost 63 million, Kyle Walker cost 50 million, Bernardo Silva also cost something like 35-40 million, and Phil Foden, who is a homegrown talent, but he's another 100 million pound footballer. And what I don't like about the English media and also about even some of the clubs, they should bring up Manchester City's 115 charges a lot more often. Not enough pundits, not enough journalists are talking about this. That's why I'm using my platform to highlight the issue that the Premier League title race is rigged, because Arsenal and Liverpool are competing against a cheating club which is artificially pumped up by money against the rules. And the problem is that in other rival clubs, officials, players, managers, they respect Manchester City's football talent and they are disinterested in the wider issue because they can't really do anything about it, probably. But nobody in a rival dressing room is pointing out really how Man City earned £1.7 billion in commercial income in the 10 years between 2010 and 2020. And guess what? Liverpool, Chelsea and Arsenal, who are much bigger clubs than Man City, they averaged 1.1 billion each, which means that Man City artificially inflated their commercial income by more than 600 million pounds in 10 years. That's 60 million pounds per year on average that Man City artificially inflated their income by, and that's the 50 million pound player on average that they could sign every single transfer window, every single year, which their rivals can't sign. So that's imagine if you can sign a 50 million pound player every single summer that your rivals can't afford to sign. That's a massive unfair advantage. And the whole football industry needs to be a lot more vocal about this. Because, of course, until the Premier League finally gives their verdict on Manchester City breaking these 115 financial fair play rules, Man City will keep winning trophies and titles. Probably a few journalists and a few rival supporters will question the authentication of that success and the integrity of the competition. But this is a far-reaching topic because the United Kingdom has a lot of commercial ties with the United Arab Emirates, and the United Arab Emirates owns a lot of businesses and a lot of buildings and a lot of companies in the United Kingdom. So is it in the United Kingdom's best interest for the Premier League to punish Manchester City heavily? Not really. So it doesn't matter if the sporting integrity is not there in the Premier League. They will turn a blind eye until money is flowing in, because the UK government is corrupt. So why wouldn't the Premier League be corrupt? But at least now Man City are charged by the Premier League. Before that, in the previous 15 years, that wasn't, or the previous 10 years, it wasn't the case. And just to give you a perfect idea on what Man City's attitude is towards this whole issue, when the Der Spiegel newspaper leaked the emails and the Football Leaks website leaked Man City's internal emails and documents, Man City's leading lawyer wrote that Khaldun Al-Mubarak, the Man City's chairman, had said that he would rather spend £30 million on 50 of the best lawyers in the world to sue UEFA for the next 10 years than pay a fine and agree a financial settlement or penalty from UEFA. So that's Man City's strategy. They would rather engage in illegal court battles and basically delay the proceedings because they have unlimited amounts of money. They just want to obstruct any investigation and delay any verdict as long as possible, because sports washing is working. More and more people are supporting Manchester City because they are winners, and more people just forget that they are even charged with 115 charges. But I will continue to use my platform to highlight this issue and to not let it slide until the Premier League properly punishes Manchester City and anybody else who breaks the financial fair play rules. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this. Have a nice day. See you later. Goodbye.